Hello, welcome to the Daily News Ukraine channel. Today is March 2nd and our daily review of news about Ukraine. Head of the Ukrainian President's Office Andriy Yermak met with NATO Assistant Secretary General David Katler. That's according to the office press service, Ukrinform reports. Andriy Yermak emphasized the importance of the visit of the NATO High Representative, which demonstrated NATO's strong political support for our country and its commitment to further deepen practical cooperation with Ukraine, the report reads. The chief of the presidential office briefed the interlocutor on the frontline developments and exchanged with Katler the views on the military threats posed by Russia and its capabilities to continue launching missiles and drones at Ukraine. Read also, Stoltenberg, NATO summit with Zelensky's participation will be a strong sign of solidarity. Yermak emphasized the need to further strengthen Ukraine's air defenses with modern capabilities available to NATO allies to defend the Ukrainian sky from Russian strikes. He also expressed hope that Ukraine would receive from our partners as soon as possible more armored vehicles, primarily main battle tanks, and other weapons needed to liberate the temporarily occupied territories. The interlocutors discussed preparations for the NATO summit in Vilnius in July this year. We hope that in Vilnius, the allies will be able to decide on the modalities and possible timeframes for Ukraine's further movement towards NATO membership, Yermak noted. Read also, Ukraine discussing security guarantees with EU, UK, US on its path to NATO. President also. The chief of the president's office stressed the need to intensify the dialogue with NATO member states to ensure effective security guarantees for Ukraine in the post-war period. Our country needs reliable international security guarantees that would make the repetition of Russian aggression impossible in the future, he emphasized. A fake report being spread by Russian propagandists claiming a Ukrainian sabotage and reconnaissance group crossed into Russia is a deliberate provocation, Russia's classic. Russia seeks to scare its people, Mikhailo Podolyak, the advisor to the head of the president's office, wrote on Twitter, Ukrinform reports. The story about Ukraine's sabotage group in RF is a classic, deliberate provocation. RF wants to scare its people to justify the attack on another country and the growing poverty after the year of war. The partisan movement in RF is getting stronger and more aggressive. Fear your partisans, said Podolyak. Read also, GUR explains why Russia creating tension in Moldova, Transnistria. Earlier, reports started circulating across Russian propaganda media platforms of an alleged shootout with the Ukrainian sabotage and reconnaissance group that allegedly penetrated the Russian border in Bryansk region. The mission of the International Monetary Fund on Ukraine will work in Warsaw March 8 through March 15 to discuss the parameters of the potential future cooperation program. That's according to Minister of Finance Serhiy Marchenko, who spoke at the national telethon, Ukrinform reports. Our nearest benchmark is the IMF edition mission, which will work in Warsaw in the near future, from March 8 to 15. That's where we will discuss the parameters of the potential future program. There we will agree on its terms and scope, Marchenko said. He noted that it is still too early to talk about specific details because there are many issues subject to internal IMF discussions, so Ukraine will have to do a lot of work. Read also, G7 to contribute to IMF's financial assistance to Ukraine. Bloomberg. I think we will find the necessary solutions so that, starting from April, we have a full-fledged program with the fund, said Marchenko. As Ukrinform reported earlier, IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva recently paid a visit to Ukraine. She highly praised the efforts of the Ukrainian government and all institutions that continue to operate despite Russia's full-scale invasion. Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal held a meeting with Kristalina Georgieva and her IMF team, announcing that Ukraine expects to launch a new program of cooperation with the fund worth more than $15 billion. It is planned that the program will consist of two parts: immediate financial support and support for structural reforms that will promote recovery. Ukraine's Minister of Defense Alexei Reznikov held a meeting with the ambassadors of the Group of Seven with the participation of his newly appointed deputies, to discuss the ongoing fight against corruption and management reform. That's according to a tweet by Japan's chairmanship of the G7 Ambassadors Support Group in Kiev, Ukrinform reports. Today, Alexei Reznikov introduced G7 ambassadors to his new deputies and highlighted Defense Ministry's ongoing efforts to address corruption and advance management reforms. We reaffirmed our commitment to continued military and defense support to Ukraine and underscored the importance of transparency and accountability to reassure partners and support Ukraine's Euro-Atlantic integration, the group of 7 diplomats noted. Read also, Reznikov discusses situation on front lines with G7 EU ambassadors. As reported, the Cabinet of Ministers at its meeting on February 14 appointed Oleksandr Pavlyuk as first Deputy Minister of Defense. At a meeting on February 21, the government appointed the founder of the Come Back Alive Foundation, Vitalia Dieniga, as Deputy Minister of Defense for Digital Development, Digital Transformation, and Digitalization, while Andriy Shevchenko, the former ambassador of Ukraine to Canada, was appointed as Deputy Minister of Defense for European Integration. Photo, G7 Ambassador UA. As of March 2, all nuclear power units located in Ukraine-controlled territory are operating at full capacity. National Nuclear Energy Generating Company Energoatom said this in a statement published on Telegram, Ukrinform reports. On March 2, all 9 units of domestic nuclear power plants located in the government-controlled territory are operating at the full available capacity. Electricity is smoothly supplied to Ukrainians, and it is enough to meet the needs of consumers, the report says. Read also, Ukraine may resume electricity exports soon. Ukrenergo, as reported, as of March 2, there has been an increase in available capacity in the Ukrainian power system, which rises its operational security and reduces the risks of deficit. Consumption is covered by Ukrainian generation and minor imports. The number of people killed in an overnight missile attack on Zaporizhzhia has increased to 4, among those missing is a child. This was reported by the Prosecutor General's Office of Ukraine on Telegram, according to Ukrinform. According to preliminary data, 4 people were killed, 8 more were injured, 5 are considered missing, including a child, the report says. The PGO noted that under the procedural leadership of the Zaporizhzhia Regional Prosecutor's Office, a pre-trial investigation has been launched as part of criminal proceedings on the fact of violation of the laws and customs of war, combined with intentional homicide, Part 2 of Article 438 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine. As reported by Ukrinform, on March 2 around 1:30, Russian troops struck a 5-story residential building in Zaporizhzhia with S-300 missiles. The building was partially destroyed, while nearby multi-story buildings, as well as the cars of local residents, were damaged by debris and the blast wave. A search and rescue operation is underway. As Ukrainian forces continue the defense of Bakhmut, Donetsk region, rising temperatures are now creating the muddy conditions known in Ukrainian as Zaporizhzhia, limiting cross-country movement, CCM. The UK Ministry of Defence said this in its latest intelligence update published on Twitter, Ukrinform reports. It is noted that poor CCM typically provides some military advantage to defending forces. Daytime soil temperatures have risen and are now largely above freezing. As experienced since mid-February 2023, overnight freeze and daytime thaw remains likely until next week, the report says. Read also, War Update, over 170 enemy attacks repelled in eastern Ukraine. Forecast warmer than average conditions for the remainder of winter and spring will further reduce CCM, the ministry noted. It is almost certain that by late March, CCM will be at its worst, following the final thaw. This will add further friction to ground operations and hamper the off-road movement of heavier armored vehicles, especially over churned-up ground in the Bakhmut sector, the report says. The executive director of the International Bar Association, Dr. Mark Ellis, renewed his support for the initiative to establish the Special International Tribunal for the crime of aggression in a meeting with the deputy head of the presidential office, Andriy Smirnov. During the meeting, Mr. Smirnov spoke about the progress of the idea of establishing the tribunal. We started advocating the idea of the tribunal a year ago. At first, there was little support for the idea, but we now have significant and growing international support for our project and have created the coordination group, which includes more than 20 countries of the world. We expect that by the end of March an appropriate decision will be voted in the UN, Andriy Smirnov said. Mark Ellis, in turn, said that I am ready to assist in every possible way in your work to establish a tribunal and punish Russian leaders for the crime of aggression. The creation of the tribunal needs to be a priority for the international community. Government borrowings to the state budget's general fund came to UAH 226.8 billion in January-February 2023, which is 58.8% of the plan for this period. This was reported by the Finance Ministry's press service, according to Ukrinform. From the placement of government bonds, UAH 84 billion was raised, including UAH 14.7 billion in foreign currency, 308.7 million US dollars and 86.9 million euros, to finance the state budget. In addition, UAH 21.8 billion was attracted from the issuance of military government bonds. UAH 142.8 billion was raised from external sources, the report says. Read also, business activity indicators in Ukraine's manufacturing industry improved in February 2023. It is noted that payments for repayment of the state debt in January-February 2023 amounted to UAH 47.7 billion, 94.1% of the plan. Debt service payments came to UAH 12.6 billion, 100% of the plan. As reported by Ukrinform, state borrowings to the general fund of the state budget for January-December 2022 amounted to UAH 1,261.1 billion. In Mykolaiv region, on March 1 at 11:14 and 13:13, the Russian army fired MLRS near a settlement of Kutsurub community and along the community's coastline. Vitaly Kim, head of the Mykolaiv Regional Military Administration, said this in a telegram post. As of the morning of March 2, there are no casualties, Kim wrote. Read also, Russian army shells Kherson region almost 90 times in past day in the city of Mykolaiv, Pervomaisk, Voznesensk and Bashtanka districts. The day and night were relatively calm, the regional governor wrote. As reported by Ukrinform, on February 28, the enemy launched mortar and artillery strikes on the water area of Ochakov community and the coastline of Kutsurub community in Mykolaiv region. Today we were talking about those news. Zelensky's office chief meets with NATO Assistant Secretary General. Story of Ukrainian saboteurs in Bryansk region, classic provocation, advisor. IMF mission to Ukraine set to kick off work in Warsaw March 8. Finance Minister. Defense Minister Reznikov, new deputies meet with G7 ambassadors. All nuclear power units operating at full capacity. Energoatom. Death toll in missile attack on Zaporizhzhia grows to 4. British intelligence analyses how rising temperatures in spring will influence situation at front. IBA Executive Director supports creation of special tribunal for Russia, President's Office. State borrowings to budget reach UAH 226.8 billion since year start. Finance Ministry. Enemy strikes community in Mykolaiv region.